What's up, beautiful people? Today's study is going to be amazing. We are going to be looking at one counter gambit that is not so common, the Colorado counter gambit. This is actually a request that was made by one of my dear subscribers, which is why I always advise you guys to leave your comments in the comment section down below so that I can learn of your needs and other opening suggestions. Anyways, the Colorado counter gambit is where white begins with e4, then you go knight c6, which is the Nimzo-ish defense. By the way, the whole purpose of knight c6 is to invite pawn to d4 in some lines so that we can go pawn to e5 right away, inviting white to advance his d pawn, after which we then relocate our queen's knight to the king side, trade off our dark squared bishop before playing pawn to d6. So that's just the idea behind knight c6 on move 1. So you're not always going to see your opponents responding with pawn to d4 on the second move. Instead, they may play something like knight to f3. This is when you change your mind and play this weird looking pawn to f5. Not objectively the best defense in this world, but this can be very tricky, especially against unprepared opponents. You can see grandmasters also play this. These are real OTB games. So pawn to f5 is not much of a stretch. Anyways, white is going to take on f5, after which you immediately counterattack the pawn on f5 with your light squared bishop. And as you can see in the Leech's database, pawn to d4 and bishop b5 are the top played moves, which we are looking at in this particular video. Of course, starting with bishop b5, because that looks natural, you know, pinning the knight to the king. Well, they just gave you back the pawn, so just take it. If white plays knight e5, the move I recommend here is queen d6, which is also loved by grandmasters. In the Colorado counter gambit accepted, we just want to develop our queenside pieces rapidly and castle long given a chance. If they take our knight, well, we can just take back with our b pawn. And yeah, it looks like our plan of castling long has been disturbed, but we can always castle short if we want to. For example, if bishop e2 is played, you can just simply go pawn to e5. Look at this wonderful pawn structure on the center for black, and look at the win rate in the Leech's database. You guys, this is a must try counter gambit. Next, you just want to develop your knight and develop your dark squared bishop like this. And whatever white does, you just go ahead and castle short. You have two semi-open files for your rooks, you guys. Stockfish gives black a negative 1.1 advantage, suffice to win the game. So this is all in the Colorado counter gambit accepted. Let's look at something else that white can do. Back on move 4 after pawn to d5 and bishop b5 pinning our knight. Once again, you just go ahead and take that pawn with your light squared bishop. Then if knight e5, putting more pressure on your pinned knight, you just develop your queen, and next you want to castle long if they don't do anything about this. You're not always going to see white taking on c6, by the way. They may also play pawn to d4, and even bishop takes c6 check can happen, but this is nothing. You can just take back, and now you're threatening to capture the knight. So this is when they want to play pawn to d4, a multi-purpose move defending the knight and also paving way for their dark squared bishop. But hey, you can just continue developing your minor pieces. Look at how simple this opening is, you guys. Because of this favorable pawn structure, you're good to go. Let them castle short if that's what they want. And now this is when you can go pawn to e6, or even better, according to Stockfish, is knight back to d7. You know, getting rid of this active piece on e5, which is white's knight. In the opening stage, you don't want to entertain your enemy's pieces in your territory. So knight d7 is okay, but hey, at human level, we always think of, you know, developing forward. Anyways, they are going to play bishop f4 here because that looks logical. I mean, staying in the line of attack. By the way, which is a top played move, and at the same time, a positional mistake for white, because by doing so, they are giving you more time to reposition your pieces, put them on better squares. For example, after queen b4, it looks like our c6 pawn is just hanging, but this is just a 1-0 move, you guys, because we can also take the pawn on b2, which was undefended. By the way, white can't even protect his pawn because we're gonna take the rook on a1 for free, or maybe be an exchange up, so they better do something else. They play knight d2 here. We can exchange queens if we want to, but there's no need to do this. we still have a weakness on the center to solve. The e6 square, besides your pawn on c7, is not defended as well, so white may end up taking that for free. So even though this is a counter gambit, you still want to use your mind and rely on your tactical vision. Queen b6 defends the pawn, also attacks white's knight on c6. If they go back to e5, because what else can they do? Well, this is when you can just go ahead and take the free pawn on d4. Guys, I don't see anything wrong with this. By the way, anytime you feel like you can just develop your bishop on d6 and castle short to put your king to safety, not to mention that we have pawn to c5 in the near future, I think I need to make a detailed study on the Colorado counter gambit, guys. Like, seriously, this is a special gambit. Oh, by the way, going back a few moves, maybe somewhere here before white takes on c6, after you play queen b4, noticing this threat, white doesn't have to take on c6. If they play pawn to b3, you can just retreat your queen back to b6, you defend your pawn, and on the next move you are ready to play bishop d6 and castle short. You will have two semi-open files for your rooks. This is surely a gambit that I would love to play even on my wedding day in real life. Anyway, we're still looking at the accepted version. Once again, the secret is not to resign, but to go pawn to d5. I don't know why I like saying that, but again, if bishop b5, just remember to take that pawn and play queen d6 given a chance. By the way, this may just take us to the same kind of pawn structure which is favorable for black. I mean, if they play knight e5, we just go queen d6. If they castle short right here, you can go queen d6, or just go for castle short ideas. Let's say rook e1. Maybe they want to do this. You can simply go bishop d6. By the way, knight d4 in this line doesn't even work due to knight e7, followed by the possible knight takes f5 and castle short. In this position, we can even take on h2 with check, because if they take, we have queen h4 check and we are going to get back our piece. But yeah, someone might say white doesn't have to take your bishop, they just have to slide their king to h1. In this line, there is a trick which you can try where you ignore the bishop on h2, giving white one more chance to blunder by taking on h2, after which you go knight check, and worse off, if king g1 is played, you now go queen h4. This is no check, but you are threatening to capture on f2 or give a check on h2. For example, if knight takes f5, you can simply take on f2 with check first. They have to go back, and this is when you take back on f5 with tempo, plus you are threatening to go knight f2 check, winning the queen, and you also have all the time in this world to castle short. Anyway, instead of knight takes f5, if they retreat their knight, stopping you from going queen h2 check. Yeah, well, but you have queen takes f2 check. They have to go this way, and this is when you can just simply castle short. Look at all these threats coming. As I already mentioned, this is just my introductory video to the Colorado Gambit. I have more wonderful stuff prepared for you guys, so let me know in the comments section down below if you want me to make a detailed study on the Colorado Gambit. Let's look at the declined version of this counter gambit. Let's go. Let me just explain something here. White players believe that if they are to accept the Colorado Gambit, it is generally safer for them to give back the pawn through bishop takes f5, but that's exactly what we want. Another attempt that white players may try after taking your pawn and then you go pawn to d5 is bishop d3. Trying to hold on to this pawn, but this proves to be less accurate because of knight b4. If queen e2 is played, for example, you can just go ahead and take that bishop, and because white doesn't have time to develop his d pawn, you can even develop your king's knight on h6 instead of going knight f6. So this comes with a double attack, by the way. If knight d4 by white, pawn to c5 is a move, but I don't believe in this. I suggest you remember to play this sneaky move, pawn to g6. What if they take your g pawn? You have no intentions of taking back the pawn. You just want to go pawn to e5, marching towards the gates of hell, attacking the knight. This was just to show you what can happen if white tries to hold on to his extra pawn on f5 with bishop d3, which is a very passive move, by the way. So white can still decline the Colorado Gambit after pawn to f5 with the move pawn to e5 right away. But there's one sneaky move that I would love to show you guys in this line. You simply go pawn to d6 as if you want to get back your pawn, right? And it is in this position where you see most of your opponents taking on d6. Quick question, which pawn do you capture with on d6? Is it the c pawn or the e pawn? Alright, the better move is c takes d6, which maintains equality. You just want to solidify your center pawns. This is an easy gambit to play. Because of this pawn on f5, I consider it to be a sound gambit. Anyways, before I end this video, let me show you one beautiful trick in the declined version of the Colorado counter gambit, where white doesn't take on d6 after you play pawn to d6. I mean, instead they go bishop b5. Guys, you just take on e5, allowing white to take back with his knight, after which you go queen d5 immediately, attacking the knight and the bishop. Bishop takes c6 check is the top played move, after which I propose you first attend to this problem, and it is here where you're going to see most of your unprepared opponents going queen h5 check, because this looks attractive. I mean, the knight is controlling the g6 square. What can black do? Well, in this line you can happily go pawn to g6, let them take on g6, but oops, here comes knight to f6, attacking the queen, and look at this. White can't go back because we're simply going to capture the free knight. And if they go queen h3, just an example, the move to remember in this position, ladies and gentlemen, is queen e4 check. So they play king d1, after which we simply go pawn to f4. All of a sudden, white's two pieces are under attack. For example, if queen h4, we don't even take back the knight because we have a better move. Bishop g4 check. I know you are afraid of pawn to f3 blocking the check, but you can just go ahead and take that, and after gh you go queen takes f3. Then after king e1, you first of all take the rook on h1 with check, forcing white to come up. If king f2, we're going to play something like knight e4 check. But even in this position, if you are lazy to calculate, you can just play queen e4 check and win the knight, or even better, just take on g6, because that attacks the queen on h4. If they take your rook, there is a mate in 4 in this position, which I would love you guys to find with your own eyeballs. Let's go. Anyways, so this is all for today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Remember to subscribe in order to encourage me to keep on making more wonderful videos just like this one. Bye bye.